Namaste, my Ecomm Learners. Welcome to another learning journey with Teacher Claire. For those who are first time here today, I would certainly be glad to have you with me as we continue exploring the Philippine literary forms, genres, elements, and traditions. This time, we will focus on the elements. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, like and share this video to anyone you know would benefit from it. Then let's get started. Moving on, we have the following literary elements. Number one is character. Every story will have at least one character, the main character. The main character is often known as the protagonist. Those acting against the protagonist are called antagonists, and the interactions between them create conflict or tension in a story's plot. Therefore, again, the two types of character are protagonist, which refers to the main character in a story. He is often a hero, but sometimes is not. He can also be the story's narrator. The next one is antagonist. The antagonist is a character who stands in the way of the protagonist's movement in the story. Oftentimes, this is a villain, but it does not have to be one. The next element is setting. It refers to time periods, geographic locations, cultural context, immediate surroundings, weather, times of day or times of year employed in the story. A setting can be used to create a mood as an integral part of the plot, creating a conflict, and others to bring out certain aspects of the characters, and can also be used figuratively or symbolically to hint at the story's theme or reflect an interior state of the characters. So that is what we call setting. The next is conflict. It refers to the central problems of a literary text. It is the central struggle of the main character. Conflict drives a story forward by providing a sense of purpose or motivation. Most works are animated by some form of conflict. Literary theorists have suggested that there are primary types of conflict that, to different degrees and in different combinations, may show up in a literary text. And these are man versus man, man versus himself, man versus society, man versus nature, man versus technology, man versus mythical or paranormal force, and man versus everything. Those are what we call the primary types of conflict that may arise in a literary piece. An even easier way to think about this is that some conflicts are internal. So someone struggling with two different feelings inside of themselves, that is internal. And some conflicts are external. So someone struggling against a person or a situation. So that's what we call external conflicts. The next element of a literary piece is theme. A theme is a central idea, concept, or message that is explored throughout a story. Themes are often a bigger, broader, or deeper message than an author can write about coherently, so they use the other literary elements like plot, character, and conflict to guide the reader along. For example, some of the most common themes in literature are love, loss, coming of age, freedom, and power. These are huge concepts that can underpin a story. Then we have point of view, or also known as narrative perspective. An element closely related to narrator is point of view. Point of view is the angle through which a story is told. The difference between narrator and point of view is that a narrator is the entity through which a point of view is told, while point of view is the position from which the narrator sees the story. The story can be from the first person point of view. For example, I saw, or the third person point of view. For example, he saw, Notably, there are some important variations on both of these major points of view. Let me discuss the types of point of view, or the POV. The POV you choose can help shape your entire story. There are several different point of views to consider, but the most common are first person, second person, and third person. In first person point of view, a story told in the first person is most often told from the point of view of the protagonist. Our protagonist narrator will speak using first person pronouns like I, we, me, and many others. This is a great way to pull a reader into the story, and a very strong bond can be formed between the reader and the narrator. The next one is second person point of view. You won't see second person used very often in literature, but it is an important point of view to keep in mind. In the second person, the reader is addressed directly and may even become a character of sorts in your story. This point of view is written using second person pronouns like you, your, and the others. The next one is third person point of view. The third person point of view is by far the most common point of view in fiction writing. In this kind of story, the reader is a bystander, observing the actions of the characters as told by an outside narrator. This point of view uses third person pronouns like he, she, they, and the others. Then we also have third person omniscient. A third person omniscient narrator knows everything going down in the story. As a reader, we can learn the inside thoughts and feelings of all the main characters. The story unfolds in front of us, and we get to experience it through a variety of character lenses. Then we also have third person limited. In this point of view, our narrator has access to only one character's inside thoughts and feelings. As the reader, we typically follow this one character as our main character, learning only what they know and seeing the world through their eyes and experiences. But remember this, text can switch between different point of views. Now let's talk about the next element of a literary piece. We have the plot. It is what happens in the story. Plot drives the narrative forward. It is what your characters do, what events transpire, and in what order. To keep your reader engaged and interested, your story should include these plot elements. We have exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. Now let's explore each one. Exposition. Exposition gives the reader the background information they need to jump right into your story's world. This is often found towards the beginning of your story. Even if you choose to jump right into the action, somewhere along the way, your reader needs to get a crash course on your characters or settings history. Exposition can be given in a variety of ways. Some examples include flashbacks, character dialogue, letters from the past, setting or character descriptions, point of view, aka POV, such as the narrator or main character's thoughts. The next one is rising action. The rising action is the moments in your story that lead up to the climax. Choices your main characters have made and the events happening that are at odds with your character's goals. This is where your story builds and your reader begins to invest in your characters. This is likely going to be the longest section of your story. A whole lot happens between the start of the novel and that moment, but often you'll find yourself holding your breath and waiting to see what will happen. That is the power of rising action. Next is climax. This is it, the primary turning point and what your story has been building towards. What are your main characters going to do? Will they succeed or fail? Typical climaxes include victories or defeats. The main goal of the climax is to resolve the conflict, but whether that positively or negatively affects your character is up to you. Or maybe it's not that simple. Then we have falling action. Now that the main conflict is resolved, it's time to begin wrapping everything up. The falling action is a great time to tie up any loose ends, while also giving your characters a chance to deal with the aftermath of the climax. Then we have resolution. It is also known as denouement, which refers to a story's final untying or resolution. The story's denouement is always at the end, after the climax. Some of the short stories we have read have denouement that purposefully don't resolve the plot's central conflict. This is a part where it's time to end your tale. If you still have unanswered questions in your plot, answer them now. The resolution is also the time to show the next step in your characters' lives. Do they live happily ever after? Is a new era dawning? Is a new era dawning? Or do they just continue on with their ordinary existence with a new experience under their belt? The resolution of one story can also be the start of another. You can introduce a new conflict or raise more questions for your reader. Wrap it up, then begin again. So those are the elements of a literary piece. That's it for today. I'll be with you again next time, my Ecomm Learners. In my next video lesson, we will talk about the literary traditions. Remember that happiness is a choice, so always choose to have a happy heart. God bless us all, my Ecomm Learners.